Great. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. My name is Nasheed Chowdhury. I'm the Economic Development Lead at the City of Joondalup, and I'm so delighted to see many of you here tuning into our inaugural Q&A webinar with the Small Business Development Corporation. First and foremostly, the area surrounding Lake Joondalup was and continues to be a very important place for the Murununga people, and I'd like to acknowledge the traditional people, Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, who are the traditional owners and the land where our Joondalup businesses are located. Before I introduce you to the lovely Lauren and Lisa, I'd like to share some of the key programs that we're doing at the City of Joondalup. In particular, with COVID hitting, which is the biggest topic right now in our lives as a global pandemic, there's been an enormous impact on our local economy. And in particular, a lot of our businesses have experienced a hit to their revenue and their customer base. The City, we're committed to helping the small business community to emerge stronger from a crisis, and we've accelerated a number of our programs and initiatives to support the cause. One of these programs, which I really encourage many of our local businesses to participate in, is the Business Engagement Program. Through this program, the City's dedicated economic development team are providing the guidance and support to businesses who are navigating the impacts of the restrictions, the social distancing measures, and the broader financial impacts of COVID. We've already engaged with more than 100 businesses in the last few weeks and connected them to the state federal government initiatives, such as what the Small Business Development Corporation is putting out, what Oz Industry is putting out, the Australian Taxation Office, Services Australia, and the Department of Health. As a small business-friendly city, Joondalup's worked closely with the Small Business Development Corporation for many years. And thanks to our strong relationship with Lauren Westcott and Lisa Legina, who have kindly agreed to support us and our business community today in participating in this Q&A. Lauren is a Senior Policy and Advocacy Officer who's been instrumental in the statewide local government Small Business Friendly program, and is a passionate advocate for red tape reduction. And we've had many discussions about this, Lauren, and fast approval processes for small businesses. In her role as Manager Advisory Services. And then we also have Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Who's been extremely busy, which is it's been quite inspirational for a lot of our businesses to be diverted to this particular coronavirus helpline. And you've seen an amazing, a huge amount of calls and inquiries coming in from small businesses from WA. I'd like to say thank you to everyone who's actually submitted a question already beforehand for the Q&A, and we'll try and get through as many as we can today. If you'd like to pose a question during the session, please do so using the chat function, and we'll try and include them in our discussion. Before I hand over to Lauren and Lisa, I just want to thank my team for putting this together. We've tried to be as responsive to the needs of the business, and we are trying to reach out to, and put together programs, campaigns to help support you. So Lisa and Lauren, over to you. Can you perhaps start with sharing some of the key challenges the SBDC are seeing from businesses and as they navigate through the COVID pandemic?
Hi Nasheed, thanks. And thanks for setting up this Q&A today. We really appreciate it. And hi to everyone that's dialed in from home. So it has been a really challenging 6 to 8 weeks, and I don't think any of us truly expected or could have imagined the impact that it was going to have on our small business sector. So as you mentioned, we've been doing our best to respond to these challenges. So we quickly moved to a digital service delivery model. So we've moved our workshops online. We launched our click to chat service. We've still got our wonderful team of business advisors who are responding to a lot of calls. And we've had about, I think, a 340% increase in visits to our website as well. So we established a dedicated web page where we could put all the updates related to the restrictions and the financial packages that are available because they're changing daily. So all of the feedback and what we're seeing, there's quite a few different challenges that small business operators are faced with. So I'll run through some now. I've got about 8 of the main ones that we've really noticed. So firstly, it's been understanding the rules and restrictions. That's been a really big challenge, and it's been changing daily. It's been really confusing for business operators because some businesses have to shut entirely, some businesses can still open, some can open but have to do things a bit differently. So that's been a big challenge. We're really hopeful that now that we've had 7 days in a row, or maybe it's 8, of no COVID cases, that we might be getting an announcement tomorrow or over the weekend that the restrictions are going to be, start to roll back. So that's really hopeful, and will help a lot of businesses start planning forward. Another challenge we've seen is businesses having to understand and apply for the financial assistance packages. That's been, again, really challenging. And another challenge has been the lag time. So, I applied X days ago, X weeks ago for the JobKeeper. I'm having to pay my workers, but I don't have money for that, and payment hasn't arrived yet. So that's been a big challenge for a lot of people. Another one has been pivoting their service delivery model. So thinking, how on earth can I do that? Am I able to do that? So that's been a big challenge. Another one has been negotiating with landlords. It's a big one and a significant one, and it's mostly been about rent reduction. So we've had a lot of calls on that, and I know Lisa will touch on that a bit later in the session, because the government has announced some things to try and address that. Another challenge, which is the obvious one, is the financial difficulties and business failures. Some businesses won't get through this, which is really unfortunate and horrible and heartbreaking. And I'm hoping that the majority will get through this, but that's the most significant challenge. Another one is for our regional counterparts. So a lot of regional businesses have specific challenges with the border restrictions. A lot of roadhouses are suffering, and the added issue with that is, our supply chain relies on these roadhouses operating. So that's something that the government is aware of and is consulting with them on that. In terms of tourism towns, in our state, we have a lot of towns that rely predominantly, if not all, on tourist dollars, particularly in the north of our state, where they have, because of the weather, they can only make their money in peak season, which we're heading into. So if they can't operate in the next 3 to 4 months, they are faced with not making any money for the next 12 to 18 months. And it's a long time, and that's a big thing to think about. Will I be able to wait that amount of time before I can reopen again? Another one is employment obligations, which we're getting some calls about. So, and it's quite obvious really, for a small business who's never had to think about this before, suddenly they have to ask the question, can I legally stand my workers down? Can I not do that? What can I do? As well as what do I have to pay my staff? If they're on this wage now, but they're getting JobKeeper, what do I have to pay them? So they're all really complex questions that businesses are being required to answer or find out elsewhere. Another challenge is supply issues. So this is something that has been going on and will continue. So whether their stock and supplies are coming from down south, over east, or from China, say, there's been delays or significant disruptions. And we're aware, that a number of suppliers have closed down too. So that's going to have a big impact, particularly when, say, the restaurants all reopen at the same time. What's that going to look like? So we do anticipate there will be further issues with the supply there. So they're some of the main ones, and as you can see, they're all really significant for businesses. Over to you, Nasheed.
Great. Lisa, did you want to tell us about some of the challenges as well and add to that?
I guess Lauren's pretty much covered them well, but I think there is an emerging challenge now for businesses in terms of as we move out of the sort of crisis and into recovery mode and start to try and reopen businesses, what are the challenges going to be in terms of how, what those businesses might look like, and certainly those in the service industries, how do they maintain, social distancing for businesses? How do they keep their employees safe within their work environments and maintain good hygiene and things like that? So they're going to be challenges for businesses moving forward, and we see part of our role is helping to help guide and navigate businesses in facing that prospect and what they might need to do.
Can I delve into that a bit further as well, Lisa? I mean, you're obviously managing the crisis team. What sort of advice do your business advisors provide to individual businesses? So, for example, a business that said, look, I've got to hibernate or I've got to shut down for the time being, how does your business advisor sort of help individual businesses?
So I guess the key is it's individual advice. So not all businesses are the same, and certainly even within same industries, there is quite a lot of variance in terms of what cash at hand a business might have, what's their financial position, how much exposure do they have to debt and things like that. So we really take it based on the individual circumstances for a business. We do have business advisors who've got strong financial skills. We're certainly not in a position where we can provide the same level of financial advice as an accountant, but we do start to sort of look at kind of what are your options, and also what are your options to try and innovate and look at other ways of delivery within your current existing business model, and what are some of your best options, so that you're making, I guess, informed decisions at a period of time with the information that you've got. We've had to be very specific too in trying to be a bit short term initially in our focus, because things have changed so rapidly. We've kind of sort of said, well, think about what you can do from now for the next month and then reassess. So there's been a lot of that, reassessing what your position is, where things are at, and making decisions then based on that. So that kind of short step iterations of business planning and sort of thinking for the future has been really critical.
If I could start with one of the questions that we get through the business engagement program, and we've actually forwarded many of these businesses to the Crisis Centre. One of the key issues, and you've sort of touched upon this, Lauren, is around the JobKeeper payment. Are you able to sort of summarise what's available for small businesses and advise what to do if businesses are unsure about their eligibility?
So I can answer that one. So with JobKeeper, it's been a payment that has also had a lot of changes and different extensions to time, and it has been a very confusing payment for people to get their head around. I will take my hat off to the ATO. They've been trying to release information, and they have released a series of guides that are available on their website for people who are sole traders or companies, to really guide them through the whole application process. Basically, for those who aren't aware, is JobKeeper obviously was announced on the 30th of March. It's a $1,500 subsidy to employers to incentivise them for keeping their staff in employment. It has some criteria around, as a business, to qualify, you must demonstrate that you've had at least a 30% reduction in your turnover. And that basically can be done using two different tests. So the basic test, which is what the ATO uses, is comparing your turnover for the month, for example, of April this year to your turnover as it stood in April 2019. Alternatively, you could also use a quarterly period. So you can use April through to June as your quarter and compare what your actual and forecasted turnover is expected to be with that same period last year. For businesses that weren't in operation 12 months ago, or who actually were experiencing, actual increases in turnover prior to COVID-19, but have since been impacted, they too can apply. They would just use a different test, and that's called an alternative test. And the ATO website has information about what they would need to demonstrate. And basically the tax commissioner there would use his or her discretion to ensure if they're applicable, they can get the payment as well. It's open to sole traders, partnerships and companies, directors. So one director, one beneficiary, and one partner can also apply for the JobKeeper payment. A lot of people aren't aware of that. So far, we've received some information from the ATO. There's about 67,000 employers that have signed up in WA for JobKeeper as of today, but predominantly they are sole traders. So there is a number, particularly in the partnerships and trusts, that aren't potentially aware that they can qualify. There are some dates around when you can get paid. So the big key thing for eligible employees is that you must have been paying them since the 30th of March, a minimum of $1,500 a week. You have, if you want to claim that back from the ATO, you have until tomorrow is the deadline to show through your single touch payroll that you've actually paid those employees the $1,500 since the 30th of March for the first 2 fortnights in April. Now, if you miss that, that's okay. You missed the first 2 fortnights of being reimbursed, but you've still got up until the end of May to put in your applications, and you can still receive. There's different dates that we can make available on your website, Nasheed, from the ATO, but there's different dates that you need to meet to just show that you've paid your employees up to that time. The JobKeeper payment is paid a month in arrears, so that's something that businesses do need to ensure they've got the cash flow to be able to still pay employees during that time. The probably big question we often get asked is, you know, is this a before tax or after tax payment? It's a before tax payment, so you will still have to withhold from that $1,500 any tax obligations. You still are required to pay superannuation to your employees as well, and that is on top of the $1,500. If you've got a casual employee or an employee who generally would earn less than the $1,500 per fortnight, it's up to you whether you want to pay superannuation based on their ordinary pay, or if you would like to pay them additional super contributions based on the $1,500 per fortnight. But none of those other employer obligations go away with JobKeeper payment. You still must ensure you do that. I guess one of the key things for anybody who is still unsure or interested, we actually have a webinar running this evening from 5 to 7 p.m. I think registrations for that close at 4 p.m, but it's all on the JobKeeper payment and what you need to do to demonstrate your eligibility and how to apply. So I would strongly encourage people to register for that. And they can find that by just Googling SBDC Eventbrite, and it will be listed on there. So yeah, pretty much JobKeeper payment. One of the other things that has just changed, if you already have registered for JobKeeper payment, you must ensure that you have got a record of formally informing your employees you've nominated them. The ATO website has got that form, but also on our website we've got a JobKeeper payment blog, and we've got a link to that actual form that you can use. Now, the ATO doesn't need that form to be sent back to them, but they do require you to keep it as part of your record. So that's also something that employers need to do, and there are penalties if you don't do that. So that's something to be aware of.
Thank you so much. I mean, I think you've covered a lot of the queries that businesses are actually having around, you know, some of the caveats around the JobKeeper payment, particularly around the fact that, you know, you may not have someone that you're paying $1,500 to, and also, you know, some of those aspects. Do you think there's, and this is just inquisitive from my end, it's in place for 6 months until the end of September, but do you think if businesses can demonstrate that they're 30% down, do you think this would be something that would continue from the federal government?
I think the federal government is very much aware that recovery is going to take a long period of time. Initially, when this was announced, it's obviously, it was for a 6-month period, and I believe that they will review the situation probably in the next few months to see where a majority of their businesses across Australia are at. And no doubt, if the support is required to be continued, they will extend that.
Okay, okay, cool. I have another query that's come in from a business. So what they've said is, I have staff registered in the JobKeeper scheme. This has required me to go back to get a bank loan to pay the staff while I wait for funds to come in from the ATO. I have to pay interest on this loan. Can I offset that against my tax liability at the end of the financial year in terms of the interest?
Yeah. Yep. So the bank loan, so interest on your bank loan or your business loan there would be seen generally as an operational expense, and they are often offset against your tax liability at the end of the year. It'd be no different in this case. And if you're unsure, just speak with your tax agent or your accountant if you have one to confirm. But generally speaking, yes, you'd be able to offset it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's good. Another question, the state government's introduced a new legislation in relation to commercial leases and COVID-19. This has been, you know, we've had so many inquiries, particularly from tenants, but what does this mean for landlords and tenants?
Yeah, so earlier in April, the federal government announced a national code of conduct for commercial leases. And it was then up to each state to determine how that would be enacted and enabled in each state. So our state government 2 weeks ago released new legislation for commercial leases. And we are still currently waiting on the actual regulations and the version of the WA code that will help guide some of those conversations. Our understanding is our code is not going to be that dissimilar from the national code, but until it actually goes through, I don't have a lot of details on that. As it currently stands, there are some protections for tenants in terms of some actions that are prohibited by the current legislation as it stands, which landlords can't do for a period of time up until the end of September this year. So that includes things like they can't evict somebody for non-payment of rent, they can't possess premises, they can't terminate leases, and they certainly can't increase rent during this period. And there's a number of other things like using bonds or guarantees to try and recover any unpaid rents is also prohibited at the moment. In relation to tenants, they are still required to negotiate with landlords about their obligations. So they've got a contractual obligation through their lease to pay rent. Obviously, their finances might mean that they're unable to do that. Our recommendation is that businesses don't, just stop paying rent and stop communicating with their landlord or the managing agent. It's really important that all parties start trying to look at a way forward through this period. So we encourage landlords and managing agents to start coming to the table about providing rent relief. And we also encourage tenants to ensure that they've got their financials in order to demonstrate the impact that they've had from COVID-19, so that they can actually provide evidence to the landlord and managing agent about the impact. And also, I guess, negotiating around what they're prepared to pay or how they're prepared to work through it. It's supposed to be a shared burden, and it's trying to work through that. And I know that we've encountered a lot of people where they've stopped communicating or just decided to do something unilaterally without communicating with the other party. And I think it's important that all parties to the lease continue negotiations. We're hopeful that in the next 2 to 3 weeks, the regulations and the code will be released. That will then have some mandated requirements for the parties to actually comply with. And we will then also have the option to provide mediation or send people to the State Administrative Tribunal if they are not able to resolve the matters.
Great, thank you for that. I have another one on JobKeeper. It's a very common one. So I would probably say to the attendees as well, if you want a follow-up session, definitely go to the SBDC session that's on this evening, and we can share the details of it as well, if that helps. But this one's for you again. The cash flow payment scheme allows up to about $50,000 how do I receive the maximum amount?
Okay, so the cash flow boost is not so much JobKeeper. That's a different incentive or stimulus package measure through the ATO. And that's based on your pay-as-you-go withholding amounts. So you get 100% back of what you've claimed. So up to a maximum of 50,000. So if your pay-as-you-go withholdings are only, say, 20,000, then you'll never get the 50,000. You'll get back the amount that you've paid. But if you are a larger employer and you've got pay-as-you-go withholdings that are quite large, then certainly you just do your normal reporting on your BAS statements to the ATO. They work out your eligibility and they will credit your account based on what they've been able to assess you for.
Great. Another one that's come through. As businesses move to reopen, should we be promoting the AHA, Australian Hotels Association Hospitality and Tourism COVID hygiene course that has become mandatory before opening?
So yes, basically that is a requirement that's been announced at state government level for those businesses to undertake. I know the Tier 1 workshop is currently available online. It's free. And it's fairly easy for people to work through. It's, I believe the Tier 2 workshop is yet to be made available. And I guess because we realise that that's something that needs to be in place before people can open, we'll be sort of following that up. But yeah, certainly being hygiene aware is really critical, not only to satisfying your customers and clients that you've got the right safety measures in place, but it also becomes part of your workplace safety and health requirements as well.
Absolutely. And may I also probably add,
I was just having a look at that earlier, and you can actually register now. So even if the Tier 2 is not available, at least register now. That's one of the things that all hospitality businesses can and should be doing right now to help prepare for when all the restrictions are eased.
Awesome. No, that's great. And we'll send that out to our businesses as well, encouraging them to do that right now as well. And I think the other opportunities is that we had a conversation with Destination Perth last week. We're a member of Destination Perth and they've suspended their membership fees, are encouraging tourism businesses to go on as their members free of charge as a silver member. And the reason why I'm saying this is because through our business engagement program, we're getting lots of businesses asking to be promoted. So, they've all of a sudden overnight had to shift from being an open restaurant or an open cafe where they have to do delivery and takeaway only. So we have a campaign that we're running called Takeaway WA, aligned to Tourism WA and also Destination Perth. And I encourage many of our businesses who are probably in this forum that definitely go onto our website, write to us, and we can go onto that campaign. And we encourage you to be promoted through Destination Perth because they are our local promotional agency for tourism and hospitality. Cool. I have one more question that's come through. So how about we make this a regular event to provide motivation and support for small business operators? What do you guys think?
Sounds a lovely idea. Nishi, we were just talking about that, days ago about that. And I think this kind of forum has been used by other groups as well. I think it's really good for everyone to connect, and we'd love to be involved in something like that. Whether it's every Friday with a beer in hand from your lounge room, who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Clive, for your comments because very, very well received. We are looking at regularising this, if we could put it that way. And I also want to put a shout out to our local Joondalup Business Association who run regular coffee connections every Thursday from 11 to 12. And they also run a fortnightly quarantini. So that's been really, really well received from some of our businesses, but that's the intention, basically. A martini every fortnight from your desk, new way of life. Another question. I have the time but not the cash flow to focus on boosting my own skills. What resources are available to me that are low cost?
I can jump in there, and I think the businesses in Perth are probably quite fortunate that there are quite a few resources that they can access at the moment for free, and they've got a lot of time because unfortunately they can't be running their businesses, so it's a really good time to be thinking about that. At the SBDC we have a whole suite of training and resources. So we've mentioned our workshops, but we've also got access to our learning portal that's got, Lisa, you can confirm the details of this, but access to I think thousands of learning resources as well. And I know the City of Joondalup has a number of great programs as well. So I'd encourage all the businesses to check out the City of Joondalup's website and check out, I think you've got the format and the programs that you've got running at the moment. So there is a lot out there that's free or low cost that businesses could access.
Yeah. And I guess to add to that, Lauren, absolutely. We're currently in the middle of running our Business Ready programs. These are 3 accelerator programs aligned to our economic development strategy, and that's really focused on how do I, as a tourism hospitality business, become destination ready? What sort of tourism experiences do I have in place? Do I have a unique value proposition for my business? Do I have a loyalty program in place? What can I do to increase virtual footfall now into my business? And that's being run by Verity Nelson on behalf of us, who's a local Joondalup resident. And then we have a digital program, which is about supporting businesses become digitally ready. So, do I have the right systems in place in my business? Do I have the right digital channels? Do I have a proper website, or do I have a proper Facebook site? So this is a whole digital transformation process, which we have 10 businesses involved in. And the third, and that's being delivered by Silvana Macri from Stay Safe Cyber. And another big part of it is, how do I become cyber resilient? 1 in 3 businesses are being hit by cybersecurity, being cyber attacked or have a threat of attack. And 80 to 90% of them, I think that's the right statistics, will not recover if they're attacked. So it's about ensuring that the businesses have the right cybersecurity systems in place to be cyber secure, cyber safe, basically. So that's the intention of this program. And the third element is, how do I become global ready? Being globally ready is not just about going overseas. Being globally ready is about, do I have the right things in my business to really increase and expand my opportunities to a global market base? A lot of the things that we're importing from business as a business are from international markets. So how do I have the right mechanisms in place so I can negotiate cross-culturally? What sort of regulations do I need to be looking at? So that's the purpose of getting globally ready, and that's being delivered by Michael Carter and Darren Levy from CCIWA. So for our future forums as well, we're hoping to bring in some of the businesses who have been impacted and bring in our presenters to share some of the work that they've been doing to transform the businesses. The Business Ready program is free of cost, and we're looking at setting up another round. And to be honest, the response we've got has been phenomenal, because it's all of a sudden given that attention. We'd designed these programs pre-COVID, but right now what we're getting is that time and that energy where the business is actually focusing on, how do I make sure I'm resilient? How do I emerge stronger? And that's been the focus of what we've been doing. So I'm really proud of the businesses who have put their hand up and taken on the challenge. And it's not been an easy journey, because there are going to be a lot of hard questions. Am I doing the right thing with my marketing budget? Those kind of things that have propped up with the businesses. And it's a whole transformation process. So it's been really exciting to see from our end. Cool. I have another question. So the SBDC, you guys have spoken to a huge amount of businesses, as you were talking about. Can you share any examples of businesses who improvised during this time to continue trading during the restrictions?
Yeah, thanks, Nasheed. And I mentioned that we've had a lot of calls, and in amongst all the challenges, there's a whole heap of really heartening stories of business operators who are being innovative and adaptive. And, we're so proud of these businesses who have managed to turn things around. Sometimes they're in some cases they're actually making more money, which is just amazing. So some of the innovative things that we have been seeing, you know, for example, restaurants who, you know, of course they can do takeaway, but now they are doing, you know, delivery boxes of, you know, food and wine to their residential customers. You've got wineries in the Swan Valley that are delivering hampers, DIY bread, DIY pasta, cheese and wine. We've got wineries down south who are making hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
Wise Winery down south are making it, for example. We've got catering companies who, as a result of the, you know, social distancing and events, now their business has come to a grinding halt. There's no weddings being planned, so they have now turned to, you know, food and meals for families and delivering, you know, just reheat yourself and feed your family. So that's really clever. We're seeing businesses finding new customers that they didn't have before. What's been most heartening has been the embracing digital. And, you know, we're all probably, you know, we're using Zoom now. I had never personally used Zoom before. We've got businesses using Zoom and Teams and, you know, all the other platforms out there to communicate with their teams and their customers. We're seeing yoga, Pilates, physio sessions being delivered remotely, you know, telehealth is being delivered remotely. We're seeing businesses that may have had a website before but not an online shop, so it's almost forced their hand to have an online shop, and they're able to, in some cases, make more money than before. And so I anticipate that the changes that they have made, they will now, that's their business model moving forward. So really brilliant. And I think, you know, upmarket, they went digital for the first time ever. And we've got, you know, some business types that, because everyone's at home now, not doing stuff, there's been a bit of a boom. I went to my local nursery. It was the first time I really left the house, to be honest, other than the grocery store. I went to the local nursery, and it was, you know, their stocks were so low. I was so worried. Oh my gosh, they're, you know, another victim of COVID and they're going to close. No, they had just been, they'd made so many sales that they couldn't keep up with supply. So you've got some really interesting stories out there. And I think embracing digital technology and finding new customers rather than supplying to restaurants, say, they're, you know, now supplying to the home, the residential customer. So I think there's been a lot of opportunity, and it's not as if, you know, time's up. I think there's still time for businesses to see what's worked for other businesses and try and adopt that for themselves.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Lisa, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I think it's been interesting. Every business is slightly different, and I think, you know, we've seen with a lot of the cafes and the services that people have had to really rethink and get creative. And I think, if anything, for the ones that have been able to sort of pivot their businesses and look at different models, I think it's been an amazing opportunity for them. And as we said, once things go back, I think those businesses are going to be ahead of the game a little bit, because this has forced them to sort of go, well, if I want to keep operating and I've got these expenses, you know, how do I do that? Probably the nicest thing that we've seen through all of this is that real small businesses looking after other small businesses. And we've seen it in local communities, and we've seen it with people looking after their suppliers. So they've worked together to look at, well, how do I help keep you in business by doing something different in mine? Or how can you help me in my business? And I think that's been a really, it doesn't surprise me, because small businesses are quite very generous with their time and knowledge, and quite willing to share with people. But I think it's brought the small business community closer together. And I think any ways that locally you can share and support one another, even if it's by making a referral to someone or whatever it might be, I think, you know, certainly encourage that to happen, because I think that's really key to keeping, you know, your local communities vibrant and being able to successfully reactivate once things pass.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think in talking to a lot of the businesses, I think there's a lot of resilience in there as well. I think there is that reality check of some of them where, for example, they're a gym or a fitness center, which has been really interesting. The yoga wellbeing centers where they've shut down, but they're offering a lot of things online. I mean, we've had some brilliant cases where businesses have retained their customers almost 100% by offering their training, their judo centers, etc., all online. And we're actually putting together a campaign right now to help promote those businesses through our community wellbeing networks. So that's one of the things that we want to do, because it is about looking at wellbeing for people, for our community, and there's that sense of connection there. What I've also seen as well is some of our local hotel operators, which have just re-innovated themselves and created rooms for self-isolation and being able to quarantine during COVID. And they've really, really changed their model and thought about, you know, how do they increase their occupancy rate, but in mind of the safety and the well-being, and really increased hygiene standards. And I think that's been really well regarded across the business community. I think that's been very big for us here as well.
Yeah, and there was one example I know of gyms, and you mentioned there, you know, being closed, and so they saw an opportunity because so many people were buying, you know, dumbbells and things like that. They've actually hired their equipment. So people have had equipment dropped to their homes, who are now hiring their equipment, seeing that it otherwise was just sitting there idle, and they're making money off, you know, renting out their equipment. So I guess it's just, yeah, thinking of different ways to offer a service.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the other thing has been the support for health workers has been phenomenal. I think I was actually watching a movie the other day, and I sort of thought, you know, here are these people that we look up as heroes in our lives, and our heroes right now are our doctors, our nurses, our frontline workers who are there, and, you know, people working in Coles and Woolworths who are really taking on risk. And, you know, we are fortunate to be in WA where it's coming to an end in that sense of one era of it in terms of the health crisis. Fingers crossed. But, you know, I really, really appreciate a lot of the businesses who are there to support many of those health workers and people in need. So I think, you know, that's been something that has been really heartwarming to see the campaigns that individual businesses are putting out to help fundraise or have a free coffee, pay for a free coffee for a health worker. And that helps residents also engage in that as well. Cool. I might just open it up to see if there's any more questions. But also, I guess another question is to you guys in running the crisis centre as well. If there's common issues, or is there, you know, if there's recurring issues that businesses are facing, is there an avenue for you guys to actually advocate for that? Are you guys playing an advocacy role in all of this as well?
Yeah, yes, we are. And I think that's been part of our core for, you know, since we were established, really. That advocacy role is something that we feel strongly about, and it's something that we believe is a really important part of our organisation. So my team in particular do a lot of advocacy, and it's funny, not funny. We've been advocating for a while for reforms, and now, you know, it's happening. So for ages, we've been trying to advocate for faster payment times to businesses, and, you know, not only big businesses, but government too. You know, we believe that we should be acting how we want, you know, other organisations to act. So it was just this week, you know, just recently it's been announced that that's going to be happening in Department of Finance. They're going to be moving to 20-day payments by mid-May, I believe, and I think there is a plan for that to extend to across the government sector. So that's really pleasing, and it's like, yay, we can kind of tick that off as a win. So yeah, we certainly are advocating for where there's gaps. One of the things we were helping to advocate for was the road houses, as we mentioned. So yes, certainly, and one thing that works really well is like Lisa's team of advisors. They are, you know, front of line. They're taking the calls, they're responding to the inquiries. So where they can hear some of the issues, they feed it back to our team, where we then try our best to advocate to all tiers of government, really.
Yeah,
and my manager sits in, they're meeting weekly now. There's, you know, a couple of big working groups across government who are focused on the economic impact and economic recovery, what that will look like. So yes, we have a key role in those working groups, and the Small Business Commissioner is a big focus of him at the moment.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So we might be getting a bundle of different points which we can work together on as we're also gauging through our business engagement program. The other sort of thing I would probably highlight, which is which WOLGA has underwritten, which is the vendor marketplace, vendor panel marketplace, which is an amazingly powerful way for businesses to get access to local procurement processes and government procurement processes. So we have some information that we can send to you, or if you want to engage with us through the business engagement program, we can provide you with more information on how to get on those systems. But there's some great cases where, you know, you may be a small catering business, but you actually start gaining traction with small opportunities, and that could help you grow your business. So that's some of the work that we're trying to do with WOLGA and through the vendor marketplace. So that would be an opportunity for local businesses as well. I have a question from Renee. Is the City of Joondalup providing any financial support in any way, e.g. rate reductions? So probably like many councils, we've set up a local recovery group committee, coordinating group, and there is within that an economic subcommittee. The city has a huge priority on economic development, and there's a number of different economic drivers they're looking at to support the local business community. So I don't have a straightforward answer to that, but I think that will be, there'll be a number of recommendations made that council will be making some decisions on hopefully soon. So that's where it's at. But what I do encourage you to do is write to us, tell us about some of the ideas you may have, which we can then flag up the chain for consideration as well. Did you, Lauren and Lisa, have any closing comments that you'd like to make?
I'll just jump in. I suppose one of the final comments I really want to make, and it's more of an opportunity for everyone that's watching, is that it's we want everyone to, you know, get through this, and so we're really starting to think about recovery, which is really great, and probably happens sooner than you know, well, definitely other countries are recovering. So now's the time to start planning, and planning is what's really important, and it's the planning now that will enable businesses to open quickly. And if there's, you know, a spike and what do they talk about, wave 2, businesses are prepared for that. So, you know, as we've mentioned, there's, you know, log on to hospitalityhygiene.com, register for the training. Also, I'd encourage everyone to check out Safe Work Australia's website. So it's been announced that they're going to be the primary source for information to get businesses prepared. So there's toolkits and information available on an industry by industry basis. So that covers physical distancing, personal protective equipment, how to conduct risk assessments. It's got case studies. So have a look there. That will help businesses create their own plan for how they can reopen in the new world where social distancing will be around for a while longer. That is something that is really important. And just a few other things. Just think about what you can do now before you can reopen. Can you do some maintenance? Can you repaint? Were you planning something and you've been putting it off? Try and do it now. Can you look at your supply chain? Can you check your contracts? Also, just have a think about how it's going to work moving forward, because the more prepared you are now, it will make it a lot easier for you to reopen when the restrictions are lifted. And in particular, tourist businesses, businesses that get a lot of their income from customers over east or overseas. The Premier has made it really clear that he doesn't want to lift that, you know, east-west border for 6 months. So I really encourage those businesses to try and build on, you know, leverage the sentiment across the community right now about supporting locally, and you know, think about how they can pivot their marketing and focus on the local customers right now.
Lisa, did you want to add anything to that as well?
Look, I think there's no roadmap for this. This is all fairly new for all of us. And so I encourage businesses to make use of, the support networks that are out there for them, through the City of Joondalup, through people like Austrade, through the Small Business Development Corporation. We are not only there to provide COVID assistance, but we've been operating for over 35 years. We've got business advisors who have walked in your shoes and run businesses themselves, some of whom still do, and only work for us a couple of days a week. So these people are also familiar with what you're going through, and I guess throwing around ideas, talking through some of these things with other people can sometimes help clear the fog, and even be reassuring that you're on the right track. So, these services are free. Whilst we're experiencing a bit of demand, we don't put you straight through to an advisor, but we're getting back to most people within, certainly at advisory level, for about the first 24 hours, we're back to everybody that we've been contacted with. And yeah, it's just a great opportunity to, we're there for you, we're there to support you, we're there to advocate on your behalf. So please take up that opportunity if you need it. You're not alone through this, and we're happy to work with you as best we can.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So this, I guess, concludes our session for today. And thank you so much, Lauren and Lisa, for being a part of this panel. I really, really appreciate it, because I think there's a number of questions that businesses have, and being able to bring this to them in this format has been great. And it's always great talking to you guys who are so passionate about supporting local small businesses. For our viewers today, we hope to bring you more experts who can support to help your business promote, connect and grow in Joondalup. That's what we're about here in the city. We have a really short survey, but if you can please fill it out so that the work that we do is relevant for you, that would be awesome. Please stay connected with us. We've got a newsletter and that goes out monthly. We've got social media channels, so we've got LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. I might be missing out on something, please forgive me, but it's available on our website. If you'd also like you to share your story, or if you've got ideas that can support the Joondalup economy and would like to know more about how the city can assist you, please contact us on business@joondalup.wa.gov.au, and we will definitely get in touch with you. We're here to talk to you. We're here to engage with you. Do not feel disconnected. Please connect with us. And we will help you where we can, but we have great partners in the state, federal government networks who can also help you where we can't help you. We play a facilitation role in enabling that. That's it. We hope to bring everyone back together soon, and thank you so much, Lauren and Lisa, for your time. Really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
You.
Great. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.